Hi, welcome to Play It Loud. I have a bee in my bonnet, which is why this is called the HiFi Myth. I've been buying music, listening to music and buying equipment to play it on now for more than 45 years, 50 years, a long time. And I think that gives me some authority to address an issue which the magazines never talk about. If you read hi-fi magazines, if you read articles in papers, every year everything is getting better. And they'll tell you that this year's model is much better than last year's model, and it's cheaper, and it goes on and it goes on. And they've been saying this since, and I'd confirm this, I remember it, since the late 1960s. And if things got that much better, you'd be able to create the Royal Albert Hall in your front room, and you can't. There's a reason for this. What they won't tell you is that the most important thing that affects the sound that you're listening to is not your amplifier, it's not your speakers, it's not your streamer, it's the room in which you're sitting. Your room has more influence on the sound you hear than any of the equipment that you're listening to. It may be a small room. You may have to have speakers against the wall. Never a good idea. Speakers are not designed to be against walls. It may be a big room, but it may be a lovely flat with walls that are bare and little carpeting and very little to absorb the sound, and it's going to echo because that's what happens. Your room has a major impact. The furnishings, the size of the room, the speaker placement, even the temperature, these things will affect what you're listening to. And you won't hear this. You'll be told that this year's model of whatever you're listening to is better than last year's model, and certainly better than a model that was put out 10 years ago. And yes, there have been significant advances. We didn't have streamers when I started hi-fi, and streamers are great, and there are areas that have clearly come on, but come on in leaps and bounds? I don't think so. So in combination, do you get better the more you spend? Well, I suppose the answer to that is probably yes, but unless you're in the top 1% of the rich in the world, there will always be better kit than what you're currently listening to. And the market, the hi-fi market, is encouraging you to upgrade, to buy better kit. But I say again, unless you're one of those people who can afford a £500,000, £1 million system, and yes, there are systems that cost even more than that, and you've got a room that you can put it in, and you've got experts who can install it, you're never, ever going to reach that nirvana. Find something that you're really confident with and stay with it, because it makes you happy, it makes your feet tap, it makes you smile when you're listening to music. There was a famous man, certainly in his time, the man who started Lynn Acoustics, and he said, selling turntables, that rubbish in, rubbish out. He's saying you could never have equipment after the source which would improve on it. The best you were going to get is what was given to the equipment by the source. And in his days, that was a turntable. And his turntables weren't, still aren't, cheap. But the market has moved on in that respect. CD players, if you're into that sort of thing, and I say again, streamers are cheap. They are much, much cheaper to give the sort of quality source now than they were, well, when they came out, when I started listening to music. So you can now get a cheap source. It's a good source. You're going to stream from K-Buzz or from Tidal, sorry, not Spotify, and you're going to get CD quality, sometimes better than CD quality, fed into your kit. So there is an upside, but you don't need to remortgage to get the best sound. You need to look at the environment in which your sound you're listening to. You need to look at your room. And yes, you've probably got family, they want the room in a particular way. It's almost certainly your living room. You can't just bring things out into the middle of the room or have stacks of hi-fi equipment. No, of course you can't. That doesn't mean that you can't get really good sound. You simply have to adapt to the environment in which the sound is being produced. I'll walk on and I'll do at least one more video as to why and how you can address this. It's something that the papers do, the magazines do occasionally get into. Perhaps not as much as they ought to, but speaker manufacturers will often have websites telling you how you can best set up the system and how their speakers sound best, and they're worth looking at, even if you can't do exactly what they want. So, in short, you don't need to remortgage your house to get the best sound in your environment. You don't need to buy this year's equipment because it's so much better than last year's. It isn't. You need to address the environment in which you're in. In that environment, you can improve the sound that you're hearing. So, I'll come back to this in another video, but there are others out there. Feel free. The environment is the most important area of the sound that you hear. When you've got it right, put something that you enjoy on and play it loud.